welcome back with another banger. It's the React Files. Hope you're having a good night. Let's get straight to it.
After the death of a pope, the Vatican enters its interregnum period. This is the time between the pope's death and the election of a new leader. So what happens next? First, the Vatican's administrator verifies the death, and it's done by calling out the pope's baptismal name 3 times. If there's no response, then they declare that the pope is dead. The Vatican then informs the world of the pope's passing through its official channels. The pope's funeral must be held within 4 to 6 days after the pope's death. The pope is then buried at St. Peter's Basilica unless he is requested to be buried elsewhere, which is the case for this pope. A 9-day mourning period then follows. Then the process for electing the new pope begins. The papal conclave choose who their next pope will be, and this begins around 15 to 20 days after the pope's death. Cardinals who are under the age of 80 gather at the Vatican for this secretive process. They are locked in the Sistine Chapel and cut off from the outside world. They practically have no contact with the media or phones during this period. They then vote in multiple rounds until a candidate receives 2/3 majority, and the ballots are burned after each vote. A black smoke signals that no decision has been made, while white smoke signals that a new pope has been elected. So what happens when the pope has been chosen? Well, after the election of the pope, he is formally asked if he accepts his role. If he agrees, he must select a papal name, which is often inspired by past saints. Then the senior cardinal deacon proclaims in Latin, "We have a pope." Moments later, the new pope will greet his followers in St. Peter's Square, where he will offer his first blessings as the new pope.
Pope Francis has just passed away, meaning the Vatican's about to go into meltdown. And the prophecy of the popes is real. This means the 5th seal has been broken, meaning the prophecy of the popes is true. So in case you didn't know, the day after Easter, Pope Francis has passed away at 88 years old. Suppose when you're that close to God, you know when you're going to die, right? No, he had good doctors. He knew it was coming in February. Well, aren't they bad doctors if they knew he was going to die? Yeah, I guess so, because they couldn't stop it. Doesn't matter, he's dead. Let me tell you about the prophecy. Meet Saint Malachi, who was around in 1148. He was a 12th century Irish archbishop, so on one of his trips to Rome, he received a prophecy. This prophecy or vision was 112 Latin mottos. And here's a list of all the historic popes, excluding the one that's just died today. And here's what they have to say about him. Pope 110 was supposed to be Jean Paul. Pope 111 was Cardinal Ratzinger of Germany, but Pope Francis was the false prophet of the Antichrist, who's supposed to be known as Petrus Romanus, or Peter the Roman. And the reason the last pope was known as Peter the Roman is to mark the ending of the full cycle of popes. This is St. Peter I. He the OG Pope. And the reason the last pope is known as Petrus Romanus is to symbolize the first pope was named St. Peter, and it's a full cycle like the Ouroboros. You still with me? Good. Save this for later. So this means the 5th seal is now broken. What's the fucking 5th seal? This is the 5th of 7 seals in the book of Revelations. This is when the persecuted souls of Christianity ask God to exact a vengeance on the living. This is because the Antichrist corrupted everybody. Wait, who's the Antichrist? Now this is the universe's favorite spiritual grandma, Dolores Cannon. And she said the Antichrist is going to be here anytime soon. Yankees. Like zoink, Scoob. This is the Antichrist. Now, Dolores Cannon actually said that the Antichrist had been born and was being raised in the Middle East, whilst others believe that the Antichrist is a corrupt state of mind being driven by their inner reptilian desires, so reproduction and food, constantly putting lust as the priority, whilst being driven by the 5 senses, and they distract everybody else, just shiny objects and beauty. But either way, 113 popes are now done. The Bible even wrote about it in Revelation, stating that he was a devil from the bottomless pit controlled by Satan. And the prophecy also states that the city of 7 hills will be destroyed. The city of 7 hills is known as Rome, the Vatican, aka the Church of the Holy Roman Empire. The city of 7 hills will fall as part of this prophecy of 113 popes. Now I want to know, do you think the Antichrist is real, or is it merely a state of mind? Share this with a friend, because prophecy is coming, and Christians, you better watch out. Let me know here what you think it means for Christianity and people in general. Hopefully your Lord and Savior Jesus Christ makes it back in time to save you all from the upcoming rapture of the fact that the Christian church is now collapsed. But yeah, entertainment purposes only. Share this with a friend, love and light to all. Peace.
Shout outs to Majestic Mindsets. The 5th seal has been broken. Are we really in this time period? The ushering in of the Antichrist. And according to Dolores Cannon, he's being raised in the Middle East. I think the giveaway is going to be the 7 hills. Yo, this really feels like the movie The Da Vinci Code.
Bro, the Pope wasn't even dead for 24 hours, and the gambling amount on who is going to replace him has now reached a staggering $4.5 million. Their current favorite is Italian Pietro Parolin, with Filipino Luis Antonio Tagle close behind. And what's crazier is that this isn't even new. Even when Pope Francis was hospitalized in February, bets on whether we'd get a new pope this year started trending. And I don't even know how this isn't already a Black Mirror episode, because companies have offered bets on other sensitive events too, like whether the Titan submersible would be found, the LA wildfires, and even if the US would take over Gaza. Turns out though, we've been cooked for a while, because even all the way back in the Middle Ages, Pope Gregory had to pass a law threatening excommunication because people were gambling on who would be the next pope all the way back in 1591.
Gambling for the next pope is outrageous. Holy gambling. Shout outs to Dylan Page.
So we got to talk about this. So Pope Francis dies at the age of 88 from battling with double pneumonia. But hold up, this shit is a little crazy. So let's rewind. The Pope was in the hospital for 38 days on his deathbed. Critical. It was a moment where the doctors was like, he not gonna last. He not gonna make it through the night. Now remember, like it was yesterday, every news outlet was talking about Pope Francis maybe passing away that night. But miraculously, he proved them wrong by making it through the next day when people said he wouldn't. They told him he was going to be feeling ill for a little while. They said he probably wasn't going to be able to get up and be mobile for at least 2 months. They wanted him to rest for 2 months, y'all. But guess what? He started feeling better and he discharged. He discharged from the hospital, y'all. So he got back on his grind. He like, y'all can't stop me from God's work. So he was back at work like nothing ever happened. But here's the thing. Right before he passed, he had a meeting with J.D. Vance. It was a so-called private meeting, but they said they were talking about humanitarian stuff. Then boom, y'all, the next day, he's gone. They say he went peacefully. I don't know, y'all. Something don't feel right. Let's go a little deeper. Everything started to change this day. Y'all remember when he opened them holy doors? I made a couple videos on this. He opened those doors and he invited the whole world to walk in with him. But after this, let me know if I'm tripping. This is when everything went downhill, y'all. I believe he opened one of the holy doors that has never been opened, or hasn't been opened in a while, a long ass time. And then all of a sudden, he started going downhill, getting sick. I even heard about the Vatican vault that they got underneath of the holy door. And I was hearing little whispers like he was finna open those documents down below. I don't know if it's true, but that's what I heard. I'm hearing that shit down below is so secretive that even Pope Francis couldn't know about it. Y'all let me know if y'all heard anything about that too. This is what I want to know. If he was still so sick like they said he was, why did they let him discharge from the hospital early? I'm confused. All in all, RIP to Pope Francis, y'all. But something is not adding up.
We were just talking about the archives under the Vatican. I agree. Since he opened them doors, things did go downhill. But Zay makes a great point. If he was so sick, why did they discharge him? And how was he able to have that meeting?
So, has the current pope always known he was going to be the last one before the world ends? Because the Vatican archives revealed a book that has successfully predicted every pope for the last 900 years, and it also tells us exactly when the world will end too. The Prophecy of the Popes was found in the Vatican archives in 1590 by Benedictine monk Arnold Villon, which contains the prophetic texts of St. Malachi of Armagh, a 12th century archbishop from Ireland, written during his time in 1139. It contains the Pope List, a series of 111 short cryptic phrases written in Latin that characterize every pope that came to be, starting with Celestine II in 1143, all the way up to our current Pope Francis, along with a 112th entry that describes the end of the world and approximately when it'll happen. Story goes, in 1139, St. Malachi went on a pilgrimage from Ireland to Rome to see the Pope, when he claims to have been struck by a revelation from God and fell into a trance all night while speaking Latin phrases. He reported his visions to Pope Innocent II, but the document remained unknown in the Vatican archives until its discovery in in 1590, a whole 450 years later. But now, the real disturbing part is this list only had 111 Pope predictions, with 112th passage that described the Pope during the end of times. Pope Francis is number 112. After which, the list ends with, in the final persecution of the Holy Roman Church, there will reign Peter the Roman, who will feed his flock amid many tribulations, after which the seven-hilled city will be destroyed, and the dreadful judge will judge the people. The end. Judgment Day and the fall of Rome, perfectly lined up with Pope Francis. If that wasn't enough, inside St. Paul's Basilica in Rome, there's a series of portraits of all popes that line the walls from the first, St. Peter, to Francis. These portraits wind their way around the entire cathedral with designated plaques left behind for every future pope to be put on. And there's only one spot left after Francis, which, according to a centuries-old local legend, once that last spot is filled, the end of times will be upon us. Now I hear what you're saying. If there's one spot after Francis, doesn't that mean there's still one more pope left and this prediction is slightly off? Turns out there might be a lost prophecy in the pope list that got forgotten in time and not many people know about. Now, to be fair, these 112 predictions are pretty vague and some of them are very loosely connected to their related popes. For example, the late Pope John Paul II was called De Labora Solis, which means the sun's labor through eclipse. JP2 was both born on a total eclipse and his funeral was also held on a solar eclipse. The one about Pope Urban VIII was Lilium et Rosa, the lily and the rose. He was a native of Florence, and the arms of Florence feature a fleur de lis. Peregrinus Apostolicus designates Pius V, meaning pilgrim pope, which appears to be verified by his many journeys to new lands. Before him, no pope had left Italy for centuries. Pope Clement XIV was Urus Elox, meaning the swift bear, who had a racing bear as his family symbol. The other late Pope Benedict XVI, the prophecy says of him, Gloria Olivae, the glory of the olive. The order of Saint Benedict is also known as the Olivitans. Pretty loosely connected if you ask me, and it could very well be a case of backwards rationalization happening here, forcing the phrase to fit the Pope by any means necessary. Or maybe the cardinals in charge of choosing the Pope are somewhat influenced by this Pope list and end up gravitating towards someone that will fulfill the cryptic words. But that still wouldn't explain the first couple dozen popes that matched, as this list was written in 1139 but wasn't made known until 1590, 450 years later, during which time 40 popes reigned, and these predictions match pretty accurately to each of them. The very first phrase of the list, ex cathedra Tiberis, from the castle of the Tiber. The first pope in the list was born in the castle town of Tifernum, similar to Tiber. Second phrase, inimicus expulfus, the hunted enemy, refers to Pope Lucius II, who was driven out of Rome by the Senate. Third phrase, ex magnitudine Monto, from Monte Magno, refers to Eugene III, and Monte Magno was literally his last name. Even if the predictions are loosely connected or backwards rationalized, getting 40 in a row correct is an impressive statistical anomaly if they really are just coincidences, let alone the 112 of the full list. But some religious scholars claim it was actually originally written in the 1500s, not by Saint Malachi or even the guy who found the list, but rather by a certain someone named Michel de Nostradam, aka Nostradamus, which, if you haven't heard, was a French astrologer who's been largely attributed to predicting many world events in his book Les Prophéties from 1555, who happened to be alive just a few years before the Pope list was found and is sure no stranger to prophecies that have come true. On record, the Catholic Church neither publicly confirms nor denies this prophecy of the popes, and they're pretty quick to discredit anything they don't like they did with the Da Vinci Code. And they even just recently updated their guidelines on the supernatural in May 2024, affirming that only a pope can formally deem something to be supernatural, along with a whole bunch of other criteria on its formal definition and how to deal with it. Almost like they're preparing for something to happen. Now, what about that lost prophecy? Oral tradition claim rumors of an additional phrase on this list right before the apocalypse. Caput nigrum, which, relax, is Latin for black leader. The Black Pope is a term used to refer to the Superior General of the Society of Jesus, the head of the Jesuit order. Pope Francis happens to be the first Jesuit Pope in history. Is he the Black Pope that comes right before Peter the Roman, as per the prophecy? But the big question here, when is this supposed apocalypse supposed to start? In the list, the Pope that marks the middle of the prophecy is Pope Sixtus V in 1585, exactly 442 years after the first Pope in the prophecy came to be in 1143. According to it, if this really is the middle, that would make another 442 years after Pope Sixtus until the final Pope is revealed and the end of the world is upon us. 442 years after 1585 is 2027, the beginning of the end. Nice. And this year, 2027, is a hot one, with many end of times rumors surrounding it. It's the next 2012. You guys remember Javier, aka Unico Sobreviviente, who claims to be stuck in an alternate dimension with no humans around? Kinda looks like post-rapture to me, and he happens to be stuck in the year 2027. This guy, Daryl Anka, an international medium who claims to have made 4-dimensional contact with an extraterrestrial entity called Bashar, says that Bashar told him we will make direct contact with alien UFOs in 2027, back in 1998. Oh, but he's just a crazy schizophrenic cult leader. Don't listen to him, right? In that case, here's ex-CIA officer John Ramirez claiming to have trusted official sources that state alien contact will be made public in that exact same year.
And I would say I've heard 2027 in a kind of an official capacity I can't reveal. So I think I would say that people in the government are aware of something happening and that there's limited time, a few more years to prepare the people, and that's what's ramping up.
Are these the aliens that start our predicted demise? More recently, this leaked document from an ex-OpenAI employee, ChatGPT, says that we will achieve AGI, Artificial General Intelligence, which is basically the point of no return, when AI learns to teach itself faster than we are able to teach it, or even ourselves, also known as the singularity, by 2027. If the aliens don't get us, maybe AI will. Watch out, world, we've got another 2012 to survive. Let's see how this one turns out.
Boy, that got deep fast. Shout out to Phil Spixel. 2027. Well, we know nothing happened in 2012, so how should we feel about 27?
The heartwarming reason behind Pope Francis's final ride in the Pope-mobile. Despite appearing exhausted, the Argentine pontiff greeted the crowds in St. Peter's Square on Easter Sunday before his death at 88. He thanked his personal nurse for encouraging him to take the ride as he was cheered by thousands of worshipers. "Do you think I can manage it?" he asked Massimiliano Strapetti, according to the Vatican News. The medic, whom he had previously credited for saving his life, reassured him. Francis spent about 15 minutes waving at the crowd and blessing babies from his Pope-mobile. He spent the afternoon resting in his Vatican residence, Casa Santa Marta, and had a peaceful dinner. Some of his final words were, "Thank you for bringing me back to the square," Francis told his nurse. The Pope died on Monday morning from a stroke, less than a month after returning home after 5 weeks in the hospital battling double pneumonia. His memory will live on forever.
Need to know more about this Dead Pope Society. Dead Pope prophecy? Right you are. Very well then. Well, do you remember this dude? He had a prophecy. A prophecy of 113 popes. 5 of them were fallen, starting with pew, pew. You know what happened to them.
And then there was John. Then there was Paul. Then there was John Paul. Then there was John Paul II. I guess this is what happens when you elect senile old men with dementia to run the second most popular religion on the planet. I'm sorry, Christians. Anyway, back to something a little bit more exciting. And rightfully so, because the next man's name was Eggs Benedict. Then he became the ex-pope. Then make way for Francis, who's just passed away. And this man's prophecy states that there's only 2 popes left after JP II, so then we've got Benedict and Francis, who's dead now. Aside from the fact there were alleged claims that he has powers of levitation, healing, and clairvoyance, he ended up going into a trance-like state where he wrote down his vision to paper, and that some of the phrases are multiple prophecies written with ingenious wordplay. Through the centuries, prophecies have turned out to be amazingly accurate, even prophesizing the date of his death in all 112 pages, and their characteristics are listed from 1143 to the alleged end of the world, and then that Rome, the seat of the Vatican, will be destroyed, and that the dreadful judge will judge the people. It is said that the Vatican City is what is the fallout of the Roman Empire when the Roman Empire fell, and it is one of the 3 main strongholds of the planet. Do you know what the other 2 are? The first one is the Vatican City, the second one is the City of London, and the third one is Washington, D.C. Now, people talk about the financial, political, and religious institutions, but no one talks about the existential and the fucking technological ones, right? So you've got Silicon Valley, but then you've also got CERN as well. So yeah, all of these 5 together, right? It's not looking good, man, but the Vatican's about to fall. Now, if you watched my other video from earlier, you'll know that this is Dolores Cannon, and she predicted that the Antichrist was born in the 60s and was raised in Egypt, and they are currently being protected by the Arabians, right? And there are signs that he is about to show himself. However, there is also the belief that Trump
is the Antichrist. There is also the belief that AI is the Antichrist. My personal opinion on the Antichrist is that we're very quick to externalize evil when ultimately the battle is within, right? It's whatever you need to do to afford yourself that peace and joy in life, and that's what's important. And anything that pulls you away from the light, and anything that's pulling you away from peace, joy, happiness, bliss, any type of good emotion, you know, that you can embody, I think that is what is the Antichrist, because you're not making the most of the time that you've been given by the light of creation. Share this with a friend. Follow me for more. I hope you find this interesting. Love and light to all. Peace.
The Pope Francis death, the more that you look at it, the wilder it gets. Because at this point, we might not just be talking about Pope Francis' death. We might be talking about the last Pope. And all the signs are there. So let's start from this. The death certificate said that Pope Francis died from a stroke and a heart failure. But then at the same time, they said he was in a coma. A coma, bruh? Now we seen Pope Francis on Easter Sunday, waving at the crowd, giving little blessings, talking and doing all this stuff, y'all. He even met with J.D. Vance. And then the next day, he's gone? How was he in a coma if he met with J.D. Vance that night? Y'all ever notice that powerful people meet right before something major happened? Let that sink in for a second. Why J.D. Vance? Why was he the one to go meet with the Pope? They say they were talking about humanitarian stuff. But why J.D. Vance? I'm just asking the questions, y'all. He meets with him. The next day, he's gone. J.D. Vance even seemed to notice that he was in better health. Because y'all remember, he was in the hospital for 38 days with double pneumonia. That's what they had said. And y'all remember, it was times where all the news outlets was saying that he was going to pass that one night where he just got so sick, so ill. People was praying for him. And he made it through the next day. People was like, it's a miracle. They said he even had nights where he was choking on his own vomit, y'all. And he overcame all of that. They said they wanted him to rest for 2 months because he was going to be extremely ill still. But he said, no, I'm finna do God's work. I'm finna go out Easter. I'm feeling good. I feel great, actually. He felt great enough to go on the Pope Mobile. He felt great enough to give people blessings, to even have a little meeting with J.D. Vance. And all of a sudden, he's gone. Now, let's get into this prophecy part. In the 1500s, St. Malachi made a list of 112 popes. He said it will only be 112. And after the 112th one passes, there will be no more. That's it, y'all. He said the end of time, Judgment Day, Rome falls. So do y'all want to guess the number that Pope Francis was? Malachi said the final pope will be known as Peter the Roman, that he will lead the church into tribulations, chaos, and destruction. And some say that Francis was Peter in disguise, Jesuit, but Latin American, but took the name Francis from Saint Francis of Assisi, who was born in Rome. But y'all tell me, is that a reach or is that the road? So with all of this taking place this year, y'all remember he opened the Holy Door too. The Holy Door is like a spiritual reset switch. And the church only opened them during rare Jubilee years. A lot of people say when he opened the door, he welcomed people in to make it to the other side, for people to ask for forgiveness and etc. But then you got people that said when that door opened, that was the judgment. So around that same time that he opened the Holy Door, it was talks, whispers, that he also was gone down in the Vatican vault where he was not supposed to go. It's an underground archive that holds forbidden text, and it is locked and it's supposed to be sealed. But like I said, I heard the whispers that he was finna unlock some of them documents. We're gonna play the hypothetical, because like I said, I don't know if it's real or not, but that's what I heard. But what if he did in fact go down to that vault and he seen some things that he was finna share with the world? And before he could do that, he ultimately passed. So let's lay this out. The death certificate said coma, but we all seen him alive the day before. A meeting with J.D. Vance said they were talking about humanitarian stuff. No full explanation other than that. Early on, he opened the holy doors. They say he started looking into the Vatican vault. And then boom, he's gone now. And the prophecy said that he will be the last pope. So if Pope Francis was the 112th pope, and there's supposedly not supposed to be another one, what comes after that, y'all? They didn't say it, but what do you think? So can y'all believe it was just a peaceful death? Or can you ask yourself, why him? Why after he met with J.D. Vance? And why after Easter Sunday? The prophecy said that Peter the Roman will lead during destruction. So if Pope Francis was really that guy, then the clock is already ticking, y'all. Stay woke.
Yes, if he was that guy, the clock is ticking. Shout out to Zay Reacts. That is crazy, though. His death really must be a prophecy.
Aw, the Pope died. You know what this really means, don't you? It means that Welsh actor Jonathan Pryce got sick of playing the role and he's going to take on a new role. Don't believe me? Well, here's a clip from a video I did months ago. There's Jonathan Pryce and there's the Pope, and here's a side-by-side where they are perfectly symmetrical. But the beautiful thing about this video, it was before I started looking for my smoking guns. So guess what I found? But before we get to those smoking guns, why don't I show you a little TV clip from these guys? You know how they like to tell us the truth. Right in plain sight, right? Well, here's that TV clip. Just to mock us like they always do.
Congratulations, you just got nominated for a Golden Globe for your performance as Francis in the two Popes. It's fantastic. Now, was it fated? Was it just destiny that you would play this part eventually? Because even before this movie existed, everyone said you looked like Francis or Francis looked like you.
Yeah, he looked like me.
First.
Yeah, I was famous first. Yeah.
Because here's you, in case people don't know what you look like from seeing you there. And here's Francis. Come on. No. Obviously, you moisturize and he doesn't, you know.
No, it's a big surprise because that's not who I see when I look in the mirror.
Oh, really?
No, I'm more Brad Pitt in the mirror.
Yeah. Sure.
Funny how, of all people, they mentioned Brad Pitt. More truth right in plain sight. This was literally the easiest smoking gun I have ever found, because it's just him in a fat suit. And look at this, like, they don't even disguise his face. It's literally just him with, like, fatness. And look at this here. I'm gonna circle it. The exact same blemishes on both of their faces. Exact same. And their exact same nose. They don't even change his nose. Jonathan Pryce in the dead Pope. I mean, people just go type in Jonathan Pryce looks like the Pope, and this is how dumb they know we are. Because we are this dumb, because all of us fall for this. I know I fell for it at one point, but once you wake up, you see they're the same person. It's time to wake up. But you guys know I'm just kidding. I know that poor Pope Francis lost his life yesterday. Tear, and it's just a coincidence that they have the exact same symmetrical face and the exact same blemishes and look identical. I'm a satire account. This was all for entertainment purposes. I'm just joking. This was my opinion. Entertainment only, people.
Well, even the media says they look alike. Shout out to the fittest flat earther. Seems all the world's a stage. At this point, it feels like we're living in the Twilight Zone.
Peace, fam. I'm so glad so many people are waking up. So many people are hitting my inbox, and asking me questions, and everybody's inquiring about this and inquiring about that, and it's inspiring. They're sending me videos about their time and about buildings. Unfortunately, a lot of people still don't seem to understand that there's no fuel inside of airplanes. All right? I'm going to have to keep beating this home until everyone on planet Earth, because it's almost like they put y'all under some kind of gengetsu that doesn't allow you to accept the fact that there's no fuel inside of a plane's wings. Like, don't listen to any pilot. Like, you have to understand the pilot, he's going to come in there. He's just like y'all when y'all went to school. Like, y'all went to these schools and these universities. Do you think you're smart? Do you? You're like, yeah, man, he gave me a good GPA. Of course, you think you're smart, right? But knowing what you know now, are you actually smart? No. It's just like them, you know? Most of these planes, they're going to fly themselves. You think they're telling them that there's no fuel inside the plane? You ever watch when they go to fuel the plane, they put it underneath the wing? Anybody with common sense, which it seems like nobody has, would go, that's a liquid. Why wouldn't you just put the hole on top so we can pour it in? Nobody says that. Nobody asked. That's the first question I asked. Why didn't you ask that question? And right now your brain is still flipping. It's like, yeah, but I've been putting the fuel in there for years. Have you really? I smell it. I smell it all the time. Really? I got a guy, and I think he's starting to wake up to the truth. Y'all need to check him out. Because when I made this video explaining to y'all how there couldn't be any fuel inside of these wings, 18,000 gallons of fuel, y'all thought I was crazy. When I showed you this guy, a whole human being, is sitting inside of a wing, it's supposed to be a wing. When I showed you this guy, again, I made another video, part 2, breaking down how there is no fuel in a wing. Once again, he goes, man, you must be crazy, man. I worked on these. I'm in the military, blah, blah, blah. NPC program. And so I went a step further. I became an engineer. And I said, I'm going to break down all the components of exactly how this is occurring. You understand? And I even, look, fire, come out the back, stress it. Look. They don't even stress test the wings with liquid in them. Think about that for a second. Y'all don't think things all the way through. Y'all think I'm wrong? If you're working for Boeing, Lear, or you're one of those smart tech people, I went to MIT, one of them motherfuckers. How about you go ask your people, since there's fuel in the wings, ask them, say, Damian Michaels said to ask you, since y'all put 18,000 pounds of fuel in the wings, how come y'all don't stress test with fuel in the wings? Don't look at me like I'm stupid. Don't even stand there, man. Go ask the question. Go figure it out. You ain't gonna get an answer, dummy. Where?
Glory be to God. You shouldn't have got me on this. 747, right? That's 60,000 gallon fuel storage tank. Tank me later. That's a 747. That's a 60,000 gallon water storage tank. Think about it. A Boeing 747, about 60,000 gallons of fuel. Roughly 1,000,000 pounds. A gallon of water is 8.34 pounds. Since they're not operating on water, we're going to convert it to gasoline and get it to 6 pounds. That's 60,000 times 6, 360,000. Of course, your 3 6 is 666. That would be a third. All right, fuel on the wings. Just some of the parts. There's always some smart ass in the comment sections. There you go, guys. All right. The Boeing 747 super tanker can hold up to 19,600 U.S. gallons of fire retardant water. This is messed up. The flight of the first passenger jet, 1952. Technically 1914, 1930. You guys, let's say 1952. Fine. So from December 17th, 1903, from the first plane flight, it's in 1952, we've came all of that way. Just the first plane flight in 1903 to 1914. That's a quite drastic leap in technology. That's exponential growth, which I don't deny to a certain degree, but there's a lot of things I want to go over in this video. And I'm done, by the way. I'm just not buying it. And I have a lot more studying to do. I just got onto this.
So as you can see, once you apply some actual critical thought and you don't just sit out there and accept the bullshit they're giving you about fuel being in the wings, you're gonna start to realize that things start to add up. What makes you think they're lying to you about everything, but they're telling you the truth about fuel and plane wings? Why would they tell you the truth anyway? Do you think they would actually tell you that there's no fuel in there and we're just flying these off of free energy? They can't tell you that. Because when you calculate your ticket prices, you calculate fuel. Also, they would have to re-explain 9/11, and you know they don't want to do that. But unfortunately, when the mind's blind, the eyes can't see.
Those are some pretty compelling facts right there. Shout outs to Piper Miller 31. Yeah, it doesn't make sense at all to pump fuel in the wing from the bottom. It should be on the top where you could pour it in.
How old is the Earth? Here's a mad rant on gravitational time dilation. The Big Bang Theory is literally Genesis chapter 1 reworded by a Catholic priest. Hey, wait, that means Genesis chapter 1 is observably true, did you know? Is the Earth 6,000 years old? I don't think so! But is it 4.5 billion years old? That's not necessary. The age of the whole universe and the Earth in it is somewhat irrelevant because time is relative. Depends on who you ask. You ask the grasshopper in the field, he's going to say one thing. You ask the sun shining in the sky, he's going to say something else. Furthermore, time doesn't even pass the same for two people who live in the same house. And if one of them is a child, well, an animal's metabolic rate plays a role in how it perceives time. Faster metabolisms, like those of smaller animals or children's, tend to process sensory information more quickly, leading to a slower perception of time. Look, it gets weird. Flicker fusion frequency. This refers to the rate at which an animal can distinguish between individual flashes of light or other rapidly changing stimuli, meaning they can perceive changes in their environment very rapidly. Flicker fusion rate. We all got one. Anyway, time is relative and it gets real weird, especially with special relativity. If two people stay home and sit on the couch together, their watches are going to match at the end of the day. But if one of them gets up and leaves, as soon as they start walking, their watch is measuring differently than the one still sitting on the couch because they're in movement. Furthermore, they get in the car and start driving, well, that difference becomes more drastic. The person in motion ages more slowly than the person sitting on the couch because time slows down for the person in motion, while everything around him seems to speed up. Time passes slower on the first floor of a building than it does on the 10th floor of a building. And they blame that on gravity, if you can believe that. Objects in motion age more slowly. Did you know that the Earth spins? Whether you believe in a spinning ball or not, there is a fundamental spin in the equation. Earth being a toroidal vortex, and this is observable in its magnetic field. Gravity being a byproduct of electromagnetism, rather than a fundamental force. Space and time being inseparable, it's like a fabric. Gravity being that observable phenomenon, measurable, we can see it, that distorts both time and space because it's a fabric, and when you bend the fabric, it distorts both. So gravity bends time and space, which are both curved to begin with. There are no straight lines anywhere in reality. That's an illusion. But the more dense an object is, the more that it bends the fabric of time and space, the longer the light has to travel to get between 2 points. This is called gravitational time dilation. The more dense an object is, the more that it distorts the fabric of space and time. An object in motion also distorts the fabric of space-time. If you want to read up about the geodetic effect. But what's all this got to do with how old the Earth is? Everything. The Earth is spinning. In some way, shape, or form, it has a fundamental spin. The speed at which the Earth spins has been slowing down this whole time. Oh, wait a second. Did you know time doesn't even pass the same everywhere on Earth? Because gravity is concentrated in some spots? All of these changes are very minuscule because we're all on the Earth, but they give us big hints. Now, whether you believe the Earth orbits the Sun or the Sun orbits the Earth, that orbit has also been slowing down this whole time. Oh, snap. Time is passing faster now than it was. They say the size of the Earth finally stabilized around 620 million years ago. Well, on a scale of 4.5 billion years, that means something. The Earth-Sun system passes through the galactic plane of concentrated pancake gravity approximately every 30 to 40 million years. This motion is an oscillation. You see it there, a wave function. Oh, and the cycle is roughly 70 million years with an amplitude of 100 light years. Earth's current trajectory is moving upwards away from the galactic plane where gravity is concentrated in a thin sheet across the galaxy. Dipping in and out of it causes gravitational time dilation, recurring periods on the Earth, where time slows down and then speeds back up again, over and over and over. When I tell you it is all observably toroidal vortex, I mean from the tiniest small things to the grandeur of the universe itself. Hydrogen wave function. What I'm basically getting at is that there are several known mechanisms by which the fabric of time and space get distorted on a schedule. The core of the Earth spins, it has slowed down so much that it looks like it's going in reverse. Stuff like that. And I do believe we have mechanisms to observe this gravitational time dilation in our history, stuff like the Cambrian explosion, where the speed of evolution appears to have significantly increased the speed of it, how fast things happen. Whoop! So when space and time slow down together or speed up together. So for instance, when a star supernovas or explodes, it sends out waves of gravity that both speed up and slow down time over and over and over again. In waves. Simply, everything there is reducible to its wave function. It's toroids all the way down. And there's even more stuff like voids. A void is nearly empty of everything. And they say that our galaxy may be in a void, where time definitely passes differently than for other galaxies that are not in voids. Because in more populated places, like places full of galaxies and stars, time passes more slowly because of all that gravity. And I want you to understand that when time speeds up or slows down, we won't notice it while it's happening. Because all the processes, all the natural processes, how long light takes, everything slows down or speeds up together. So that we here can't perceive that it's happening at the time. Whereby, like the Cambrian explosion, there will be evidence that stuff sped up or slowed down. If we look. By seeing processes speed up and slow down. So that when the James Webb Telescope spots galaxies that are twice as old as they should be, twice as old as the universe itself, how can that be? Well, it depends on where you're observing from and what you're observing. As to age, how fast is it moving? How fast was it moving? Where is it and what's next to it? Do you know planetary alignments actually do mean something? Side quest. Denied. Eclipses mean something. What do they mean? They distort the fabric of time and space on the Earth, as well as elastically deforming the Earth's crust and moving the water around, which changes where gravity is concentrated on the face of the Earth, and so distorts the passing of time. A star in a faraway galaxy observing us would see us going through periods of gravitational time dilation, would see our processes on the Earth if they could, speed up and slow down. I also suggest that perchance, looking back on it, we could see it ourselves. Now, if you've made it this far, I will tell you that time is considered a constant. Like there is an age of the whole universe, even if things within it age differently at different times. There is a constant, if you will. That constant is what gets distorted by gravity and motion. But the way that time is experienced has loads of variables that all observably affect it. I do believe millions and billions of years deep time is an illusion. But when we say how old is the Earth, I think that the word years doesn't mean what we think it means. And that from the perspective of the entire universe, a whole lot can happen in a year or very, very little, depending on where something is, how fast it's moving, how much density it has. So it's no surprise to me to find galaxies that are, what? That can't be. Yes, it can. Where are we? How fast are we moving? Are we in a void, observing things that are not in a void? The stars and galaxies dipping in and out of galactic planes and such. Galaxies themselves dipping in and out of far larger planes and such. Are we going to talk about dark energy and matter now? No, just honorable mention. The universe itself is a toroid. Everything in it is a toroid. There is a bigger plane than the ones galaxies display. The universe itself has one. Not going to get into that either, as I already have. Anyway, I don't know everything about this. This is just what I think. I don't know all this. I'm learning stuff, pondering it, hypothesizing, a little bit theorizing with the data that I have to work with, that other people gathered. But that's like how things get done, though. Just seems to me that there's an answer here staring us all in the face. Time is relative. It only really matters from the universe's perspective. Our lives are vapors. How we count time is more than minuscule according to the universe itself. After a fashion, I find it to be irrelevant. How old things are is a matter of perspective. I find our own to be silly on the scale of things. Okay, I'm done. Except to say, fear the Lord your Maker and keep his commands. His name is Jesus Christ.
I do agree, time is relative. Shout outs to Dead Hidden. I mean, this explains why time feels like it speeds up when you get older, when the metabolism slows down. Some deep wisdom right here.
Also, what are the odds that a door that has never been open, the Pope opens it 4 months ago in December, and then 4 months later, he passes away. But also 2 months after he did this, he got sick with double pneumonia. And I know a lot of you are going to say, stop making everything a conspiracy. All y'all do is make things a conspiracy. Dude, look around. Life is a conspiracy. People lie all the time. People cover up stuff all the time. Life is a conspiracy. Get over it. It's just the timing of everything seems really odd. What exactly was in that door? Because I've heard a bunch of people say that it was a portal that unleashed something. And so is this the unleashing of the Antichrist spirit that is going to indwell the Antichrist and kick off, because the stage is already set. We have the technology, we have the people in places, we have the destruction going on around the world. What time now? What a great time would it be to introduce the Superman of the world? It would be a great time in 2025 considering the world is in shambles. Not just the US, not just the Middle East, not just Asian countries, not just everywhere, not just South American countries. Everywhere is in a state of distress. What wonderful time would it be now to introduce the man of sin?
Nostradamus' eerie prophecy has resurfaced after the death of 88-year-old Pope Francis. Following Pope Francis's death, a chilling Nostradamus prediction has come back into focus that some believe foretold this very moment. In 1555, the French astrologer predicted the death of a very old pontiff and a weakening of the Catholic Church. In Les Prophéties, Nostradamus wrote, "Through the death of a very old pontiff, a Roman of good age will be elected. Of him it will be said that he weakens his seat, but long will he sit and in mordant activity." He also referenced a mysterious successor. A young man of dark skin with the help of the great king will deliver the purse to another of red color. Though often debated, Nostradamus has been linked to major events like Hitler's rise and the COVID-19 pandemic. While scholars urge caution, the timing of the Pope's death has reignited interest in whether another of his prophecies has come true. However, the conclave, where cardinals gather in the Sistine Chapel to choose a successor, will not take place for at least 15 days.
That's a wrap. hope you enjoyed tonight's rabbit hole. If you enjoyed this video, why don't you check this one right here? Thanks again. Till next time.